When I was in the third semester in medical college, the honeymoon phase, as all doctors would call it, and for the first time, we were to see patients and interact with them. The first year is very theoretical, but the second is where we get our first exposure to clinical work. And I was posted in OBGYN, the obstetrics and gynecology department. To be very honest, the first week was extremely overwhelming for me. Actually, for all 30 of us in the batch. The screaming women in labor, strict residents, the daunting new semester, new coursework, everything. While we were trying to ease into the new setting, every day at 10:30 a.m., we were supposed to go to the department and inform the resident on call about our arrival. So that they know that all the students are here, and they would assign us a patient to take history and examine them, and we could learn in the process. So one fine day, I decided to report to the resident on call, and I went all prepared, reading about everything that they had taught in the previous week, and making myself completely familiarized with 3 trimesters of pregnancy. So, little information: pregnancy is divided into 3 trimesters. The 9 months are divided into 3 trimesters, and the first 3 months is called the first trimester. The 3rd to 6th months are the second trimester, and the 6th to 9th month are the third trimester. And there are different questions that you're supposed to ask the patient during each of them, and that's what we had learned at that point. But I'm not going to bore you with the details of it all. So I go and I report to the most scary leader of the residents, and I just tell her that, ma'am, I am Jasmine Kaur, and the students of the 3rd trimester are here. And she looked at me twice, all confused, from head to toe. And she asked me, are you in the 3rd trimester? And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. And there are 30 of us. We're sitting in the room down the hall. And it took me some time to understand why all the table full of residents and professors were laughing at me. I was supposed to say semester and not trimester. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of DNM with Jasmine, a podcast where I talk about deep and meaningful things. So the story that I just shared with you is one of my most embarrassing stories, and I am not proud of it, obviously, but it is often a good way to connect with people by sharing your embarrassing stories. Because tell you why, we all have them, right? It's going to be different for sure, but we all have been put in situations or created the situations that led us or someone else that we know feeling completely embarrassed. It might make you feel as if you have done a big disaster at the moment, but eventually you learn to laugh about it. But have you ever been in a situation where there are a group of colleagues or acquaintances, and one of your friends tells an embarrassing story about you? Or they talk about you in a certain way which is amusing to them or maybe others, that have made you feel uncomfortable. It is because there's a difference between embarrassment and humiliation. When you are humiliated, you feel like you didn't deserve it, and it doesn't happen to everyone, and it is not okay. So in this episode, I talk about mistakes, how we all make them, how they are the biggest learning tools for us, and what emotions we feel when we make those mistakes. But I want a little participation from all of you listening. And let's do this exercise. So I want you all to think about a significant mistake that you made. Maybe from your childhood, maybe from last week or even yesterday. What is it that you did? Did you steal money from your mother's purse? Did you cheat on your partner? Did you fail to study for an exam? Or did you disrespect a friend? Think about it. And in the meantime, I will tell you one of my biggest mistakes. I really hope that you don't judge me for it, because trust me, I was very little at the time. So our summer vacations had just begun, and me and my brother were too excited to play in the neighborhood park. It was really fascinating. There was a skating rink, there were swings, and all new kids, because we had just moved into that neighborhood, and I was more than excited to make new friends. So me and my brother, we walked to the park together, and he found his age group friends and I went my way. Hours after playing and skating, I got really tired and I came back home and started watching some TV, and I forgot about my brother. It was late and my dad came back home and he started asking about my brother, and now I knew that I had made a miss and I should have taken care of my brother, but I failed. I couldn't even tell my family that I left him there. I was afraid of their anger. But I somehow found the courage and I told my grandmother about what I had done, and that maybe he must be in the park, and I remember that I was crying the entire evening. It was night time, it was dark, and frankly I would have been scared. But after a few minutes, a neighbor came and he dropped my brother home. So he had gone to his friend's house to play, and I was so happy that he was safe. Now when I think about it, I remember having this ticklish, very uncomfortable feeling in my abdomen. I felt cringy to even talk about what happened that evening for months after. What I felt was afraid, guilty, sorry, and ashamed. I thought that my brother and my parents would think that I'm not a good sister, I am not responsible, and I don't deserve their love. Now I know that what I felt at that time, it was shame. The difference between guilt and shame is that when we make a mistake, the language that we use towards ourselves, what is it that you say? Is it, I made a mistake, I should have not done that, I made a miss? Or is it, I am bad, I am a mistake, I am not good enough? When your actions are replaced by I am, guilt turns into shame. And I see it quite often in Indian households, using sentences like, you're a bad person, you're a bad daughter, you are wrong, you are this, you are that, and all of these really, really strong statements often used by parents in front of their children. And rather than telling them, you did something wrong, you made a mistake, and just this language makes all the difference in the personality formation of a child. People often say that kindness is the best quality in people. And you won't become small by apologizing. Sure. But the most important thing to remember is that when you make a mistake that makes you feel guilty, it is the time to show yourself some self-compassion. If you can remember that you are worthy of all the love and belonging in the world, and yet you're allowed to make big mistakes, life would get a little bit easier. So making mistakes and feeling guilty, what's next? What's next is the most imperative process in growing up, which is accountability. Accountability is taking full responsibility of your actions and being determined to make a change in your actions. That is how you learn from your mistakes. It's a tedious process. Every time you do something wrong, it's hard to go inside and say, it's okay, so what? You can do better next time. It's really hard. But practice makes perfect. So I hope the next time that you make mistake, rather than judging yourself, rather than saying those bad sentences and statements to yourself, you find some compassion and tell yourself that it's okay. You can make mistakes and still be a good person. And that is all I have to say about it. Now, thank you for doing the little exercise that I asked you to do. And I would love to hear what you have to say about the mistakes that you made. And you can share your experiences with me in the comment section or DM me on Instagram at DNM with Jasmine. I really hope that we all make mistakes in our lives and get from them some interesting stories to tell. Thank you so much for listening.